Hello Year 7, this is Mrs. Sheehan. I know you haven't heard my voice or seen me for a little while, but I'm actually setting you your homework for this week via a video. So this week's homework is all about sentences and punctuation and how we need to use them and the importance of using them accurately in our writing. So I'm going to start with the title page or the front cover of a book that I've been reading on and off for the last few weeks. And it's called Eats, Shoots and Leaves. Now this book was actually given to me by my granny, who's now 91, nearly 92, years ago when I was at secondary school. And I didn't bother reading it because I knew it was about punctuation and the importance of it. And to be honest, I thought, oh, I understand how to punctuate. I don't need to read it. But since I've started reading it, I'm really enjoying it, and that's because it's a really funny book with lots of analogies and stories about how not only that punctuation and the accuracy of it is important, but also stories of when people have got it wrong, either in their writing, in essays, in really important documents, or even on signs for shops and adverts, and therefore have changed the meaning of what they're writing because they've incorrectly punctuated what they've written. So the front cover shows the image of two pandas. One is at the top of a bamboo ladder and he's painting out a comma that's been used in the words eats, shoots and leaves. And then the other panda is walking away with a gun. Now hopefully some of you will have already realised that eats, shoots and leaves, when written with a comma, turns that information into more of a list. So it's then telling us about the events of something that's happened with that panda. That he's eaten something, he shoots, he's shot a gun, we might assume, and then leaves the scene. Now, the person that actually wrote eats, shoots and leaves using a comma was actually writing about the giant panda and actually what they eat, which is shoots and leaves. So all they wanted to say was the panda eats, shoots and leaves, so eats bamboo shoots and bamboo leaves. But by putting in that comma, they've then made it sound like the panda has eaten something, shot a gun and then left. So in my head, it created the image that there was a panda for some reason in a cafe. They had something to eat, then they pulled out a gun, fired the gun, so shoots, and then left. So something that's actually a relatively simple piece of information, that the panda eats, shoots and leaves, bamboo shoots and bamboo leaves, is turned into something quite comical and ridiculous, that the panda has somehow had something to eat, shot a gun and left. And they've used that as the title for the book. And I just think it's quite funny and quite an interesting place to start. So, a bit more information about sentences and punctuation for you. So as a recap, I hope for most of you, you might not know this. In very early manuscripts written by monks, so monks are men that worship God and live a very holy life in a monastery, they didn't use punctuation, and it made the text that they wrote very difficult to read. So in the medieval times, monks spent much of their days writing long manuscripts, which were religious pieces of writing usually, and they didn't use any punctuation. So you can imagine they weren't particularly clear. Punctuation was then introduced to divide up unbroken sections of text, so to try and divide up pieces of writing into small, easily understood parts. And punctuation marks such as full stops, commas, question marks and exclamation marks all help to make writing more clear. And we know we use these today and that they are really important for us to be able to write clearly, but also enable the reader of our writing to understand what we really want to say. So to really understand that a panda isn't eating, shooting a gun and leaving, but simply that the panda chooses to eat bamboo shoots and bamboo leaves. So a sentence needs to be something that gives you the complete information. So when somebody says, the men walked down to the river, we know what is meant. That's a complete sentence. It's a short sentence, but there's no more information needed there. It's a statement that the men walked down to the river. However, if somebody said, although the men walked down to the river, and then put a full stop, we'd be waiting to hear the remainder of the sentence. We would know, because of the word although, that that sentence wasn't complete and that there was additional information in there that needed to be written. So it could be, although the men walked down to the river, they chose not to go kayaking on it because the flow was too strong, for instance. That would then be a complete sentence. So the first task I'd like you to do is take a new page in your exercise book and put the title as Identifying Sentences. And then you're going to copy these 8 sentences down and then decide if they are complete sentences as they are, or whether you need to finish them off by adding in more information to make them a complete sentence. So if we look at number 1, when the concert started. Now, hopefully, you'll see that that isn't a complete sentence, because using the word when the concert started, we know then identifies the fact that we need to put additional information in there. So you might want to then write that down and choose to finish off the sentence with something along the lines of, when the concert started, the audience took their seats. Full stop. That's then a complete sentence. You'll then do the same thing for each sentence that you feel isn't complete. So the second sentence, the dog is playful and he snaps at people. You'll copy that down and then decide whether you need to add any more information into that to make it a complete sentence. But if it makes sense just as it is, you copy it down and leave it as it is. And you do the same for number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. That should probably take you a maximum of about 10 minutes. Now when you've done that, you will see on Go for Schools and in your email there is a worksheet with 2 tasks where you're going to basically read through a piece of text, so a short extract, and edit or identify where you think the incorrect punctuation and sentence structures have been used. So, task number 1. You'll need to insert the commas and full stops in the appropriate positions to make this passage readable. So you have a passage of text underneath, and there might be some, well, there is some sentences that are not appropriately punctuated, so you need to then put in the correct commas and full stops. So then when you read it, it makes sense and readable. That will probably take another 5 to 10 minutes. And then your second one here, you need to do the same again. This time it is with there, and there, to, and to. So you're going to read the passage below and then decide whether or not the appropriate there, or there, and to, and to is used. So just a quick recap. So if we're talking about there, T-H-E-I-R, we know that's a possessive there. So that's when it's somebody's possession or something belongs to somebody or something. So it was their dog. If you're then going to use the word there as in T-H-E-Y''R-E, that is the shortened version of they are. So instead of saying they are going to the park, you might put they're going to the park using that version of there with the apostrophe R-E. And then finally, T-H-E-R-E, there, that there is where you think of a location, a place. So it might be the tall tree stood over there. And then looking at to, so where you have to with 2 O's, that's where you might be saying something like me too. So where there's an additional thing that's going to happen, or an additional person, or something that you're going to do as well as. So me too, you also need to, you'll also, hang on, what am I trying to say here? So it might be you saying, oh, me too, because you want to do something as well as, or it could be, my mind's gone completely blank. You need, you'll need red pen too. So instead of, you might be saying you'll need to use a green pen, but red pen too. And that last 2 is because as well as additionally. And then finally, sorry, not finally. And then to two, as in TWO, is the written word of the number 2. So where you're trying to say there are 2 birds sitting on a branch, TWO. And then simply TO would be like you're going to the park. Okay. So read through the second passage and decide whether or not the appropriate there, or to, and to is used. And if you find one that you think is incorrect, can you cross it out and then put the correct one above it, or do a little line and then write the one there. So this homework, the second part might take you a bit longer, maybe 10 minutes to 15 minutes, but in completion, the homework I wouldn't imagine would take you much more than about 30 minutes. I would like everybody to have a go at all 3 tasks, and I wish you the best of luck. See you soon.